Commissioner. Mr. Mpofu.
15. Okay. Thank you very much, Chairperson. Good afternoon, General. Yes. Because we don't have a lot of time, I'm just going to give you broadly the one topic that I'm going to ask you about and why. Effectively, the questions that I'm going to raise relate to the one big question which we raised in our opening statement about who gave the order and why it was given. And also whether it's more specifically whether it was made for, or rather whether the order was given for an improper or unlawful purpose.
No, Mr. Mpofu, let's get it clear. The permission I gave you related to topic 1.4.
That's where I'm going to.
Well, you haven't said what 1.4 is about yet, which is about the question, the perception of collusion, I think it was.
Yes.
Between the police and
AMCU, yes.
And AMCU, that's right. That's the topic.
That's the topic, Chairperson.
Okay.
But it doesn't come in the air. I'm just giving the General the context.
Well, it may not come in the air, but I hope you'll stick within the boundaries.
Yes. Thank you. Yeah. And the topic that the Chairperson has correctly summarized goes to the question I was busy with, which is whether the making of the decision was for an improper or unlawful purpose, including the one that the Chairperson has summarized, which I'm not going to repeat here. Now, what we do know, General, just by way of background, is that let's say you were part of the decision that was taken on the 15th, call it a decision or an order or endorsement, whatever it is, but the decision that stage 3 of the plan would be proceeded with the following day. You accept that?
You mentioned the correct word, endorsement.
Yes. No, but more specifically, that what was said was that was specifically relating to the plan. You knew that stage 3 of the plan was going to be implemented.
I have responded to an earlier question where I said we did not discuss the plan on the 15th. We had a briefing. We were apprised of the situation. We discussed resourcing.
Yes, but you are aware that General Mbombo had said in the meeting of the 16th that she had relayed to you that they were now going to move ahead with phase 3 of the plan, and that you would relate it to the minister. Well, there was controversy about the last part, but the fact that she had said to you we will go to phase 3 of the plan was not controversial.
We did discuss the process of disarming the protesters.
Okay, fine. Well, then, in paragraph 23 of your statement, which is FF2, what did you mean when you said FF2, if you can? On the afternoon of 16th August 2012, I received a call from Lieutenant General Mbombo, who informed me of the decision to implement stage 3 of the plan.
It was the plan to disarm the protesters.
No. Ma'am, I understand that question. All I'm saying is, if you did not know whether there are 3 stages or 4 stages or whatever, what did you mean in your own statement under oath when you said General Mbombo informed you of the decision to implement stage 3 of the plan? Paragraph 23.
I have answered to say it relates to the disarming of the protesters.
Okay, and you knew that that disarming of the protesters was contained in stage 3 of the plan? Because that's what you wrote.
Indeed, I knew that it was contained in that plan.
Anyway, Well, I'm going to move on because of time, but I just want to say to you that we will argue that the paragraph that I'm talking about is one which you had specifically applied your mind to, because it's the one where there was a lot of cross-examination by my learned friend, Mr. Berger, and myself, where you had taken out the words, which information I relate to the minister. So this part which you did not take out must have been left out deliberately, because it was correct. You must have known that Lieutenant Bombo had informed you of the decision to implement stage 3 of a particular plan. Would that be fair?
It would not be fair. I've made my submission to this commission.
Right. The next issue is, you said to the chairperson now this morning that no notes were taken of the meeting of the National Management Forum meeting.
She was talking about was the what's called the extraordinary session,
yes,
or the ad hoc meeting.
That's
when
correct.
some of the people had gone.
I'm sorry.
That's what she was referring to. There were notes. In fact, there was a recording made of the earlier part. One of the controversial questions may be whether there was a recording made later, but she says there wasn't, and we're not busy with that with her.
Yes, thank you, Chairperson, yes. Okay, let me put it this way so that we go directly to the issue. Are you aware that there were draft minutes of the extraordinary session?
I'm aware because I needed to add just a paragraph on what we had done in the extraordinary session, and I know that it was taken out of the main minutes by the Secretariat had added that, and it was taken out of the main minutes because the members said it wasn't part of the main minutes, so it can't be part of the minutes.
Yes, no, I'm going to argue that your evidence that no notes were taken cannot be correct or true, because the evidence that we have is that that meeting, the extraordinary meeting, had self-standing minutes. There were apologies. I think there were 3 people who did not attend. Lieutenant General Munu, Mazibuko, and Mutiba had given apologies for that part, and then it was minuted. So that was not just a meeting of people who remained behind, as you tried to suggest.
I will tell you that it is not true. It was an extraordinary meeting, doesn't have apologies.
Well, the draft minutes, the evidence, I'm not going to argue with you now, but quadruple H 11.1, Chairperson, which are the minutes, the draft minutes of that meeting, will show you that there's a list of who attended, and there's a list of people who apologized, and the minutes of what was discussed, culminating in the decision that the chairperson read out to you.
Because I'm chair of that meeting, I'll put it to this commission that an extraordinary meeting shall never have apologies.
Okay, well, can you put up quadruple H? Once you put it that strongly, never, never. Then can you put up quadruple H 11.1? Yeah, there you are. That's there. There, you can see it reads the Special National Management Forum, Extraordinary Session, Protea, Midrand. So it doesn't look like it never happens. And those are the draft minutes. Just carry on. Go further up. Those are the list of attendees. General yourself, General this one and the other, and then go on. And there you are.
There will never
what
be
you say
apologies.
Never happens. There, apologies.
There were no minutes for this whole thing. And this apologies, how would people apologize for a session that is extraordinary?
But you tell me, it was drafted by your people in SABC.
I'm sure you can ask them what is that, because there's no extraordinary meeting that would have an apology. It's a session of calling people to say, let's talk about something else. There'll be no apology.
I take it what happened was these were the people who'd gone. And so it isn't correct to talk about apologies, because obviously they wouldn't have apologized because they didn't even know the meeting was going to happen before they left. But apologies is probably the wrong word. But absence, for the reason being they left already, would be more accurate, because I take it those are the 3 members of the forum who had left already. They were absent. Is that correct?
Sorry, Chairperson. In fairness to the witness, there is some evidence on this document from Major Letoko, and it was her draft. And I think you'll see that the list of attendees and the list of apologies is identical to the list of attendees and apologies in the minutes of the main meeting. I don't know if we have the minutes of the main meeting in full. And it's clearly not a correct reflection of the list of attendees of the extraordinary session, because it includes General Labia, who made a specific point at the next meeting that he was not party to this decision and it shouldn't be reflected as a decision of the National Management Forum.
So are you saying, Mr. Shaskison, the list of what Mr. Pofu calls attendees, I prefer to call them attenders, but because attendees indicates a passive sort of capacity which doesn't apply. That list of attenders, is that inaccurate because it does it include the names of some of the people who already left?
Yes, because it was only the operational members and the provincial commissioners who stayed behind, and there are a great deal of non-operational members on that list, one of whom specifically made the point that he wasn't there and should not have been and should not have been reflected.
Yes, thank you, Chairperson. Well, two quick points, Chairperson, about that. One is that's the purpose of draft minutes, is so that people can say if they are reflected, I was not there. So that doesn't take the matter any further. That's the very essence of having draft minutes. But the second point is that my point really is that there were minutes taken for the meeting, which is self-evident. So I'll move on. But the question about incorrect reflection, that's exactly what draft minutes are all about.
Yeah, that sounds like a bit of a dwarf's word, isn't it? It's not going to take us anywhere.
Yes.
You are going to come sooner rather than later to the point you're dealing with, which is the alleged collusion point.
That's correct. Now, the other point, coming to the issue of when and why maybe the order or decision was taken, is that I want to put it to you, I want to give you an opportunity to refute the fact that in your statement, you deliberately sought to mislead or to omit any reference to the decision having been taken in a national management forum meeting or that kind of thing. In fact, and I'm sorry I'm putting too many propositions, in your statement you suggest that the discussion about the decision was made in a kind of one-on-one discussion between you and the provincial commissioner. Would that be a fair statement?
Can you repeat your proposition?
You misled the Commission deliberately by omitting the reference to the National Management Forum, which was the most important part of the decision, and you suggested in your statement that that discussion took place in a one-on-one kind of discussion between you and General Mbombo.
Your proposition is incorrect.
Okay, then I'll refer you to paragraphs Triple F2 again, your paragraph 21 and 22. This is where you would have, if you wanted, you would have made reference to the decision having been taken at the NMF. You say, I continued receiving regular situational reports about the events that were unfolding in Marikana. On 15th August 2012, while attending this SABC National Management Forum in Midrand, we said, I was informed, that's what you say, I was informed by Lieutenant General Mbombo of a possibility of a peaceful resolution being reached. She informed me that she had been told that Mr. Matunja of AMCU had promised that the protesters would lay down their weapons at the Kopi at 9 and so on, and thereafter leave the Kopi. Then the next paragraph, Lieutenant General Mbombo further informed me that if the above undertaking failed to materialize, the police would have to disperse the crowd. Do you still stick with your answer that there was a deliberate omission of the fact that this was said?
Her answer is the opposite. Her answer is there was no deliberate omission.
No, what I'm saying is that in the light of this, in the light of this, what I've just read to you, would you like to amend your answer or not?
No, I'm not amending my answer.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, then, and is there any reason that you can give to the Commission why you did not, of your own accord, make reference to the extraordinary session of the NMF, which is the most important decision that was taken in relation to the operation that killed so many people?
I'm on record. I've answered the chair on that. I've already answered that earlier.
Yeah, well, can you do it again?
I think you can expect her to repeat her answers. She's
Well,
given
I
an
don't
answer.
okay, well, then
She's
maybe
given
the
an
chair will
answer.
remind me.
She said it was an omission. Whether that's a good answer in the circumstances is something I'm sure will be debated in argument, but I mean, I don't know that she's going to add to it at all. So.
It was an omission. No, I just didn't know what the answer was.
Am I right? That was your National Commissioner? That was your answer, wasn't it?
That was my answer,
Yeah.
Chair.
Oh.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you, General. Now, I'm now getting to the issue of what I call improper motivation for the order. And just as background, I'll tell you that the chairperson has already told you this, but just as building up, that there is at least the police expert, Mr. Derova, indirectly agrees with the proposition we put at in the opening statement that a decision of this magnitude must have come much higher than yourself.
Chair, Mr. Derova did not agree with any proposition. He said he would be surprised if such a decision was not taken.
Yes. Well, that's fine. I'm happy with that. But so would I. The point there is that if Mr. Derova would be surprised if the decision didn't come higher than yourself, and in the light of the discussions that you had, particularly with my learned colleague, Mr. Berger, where you omitted only the references to the minister in your statement. That's the context in which I'm now going to ask you the following question. You do remember that in paragraphs 23 and 24 of your statement, the only parts that you corrected or deleted were the references to the Minister of Police, correct?
Yes, I recall that
Yes.
engagement.
And we won't go into that whole discussion again. Right. Yes. Now, this is, we now go to Triple J 192. Before we do that, would you agree? Please listen to me carefully, because again, it's something that we did cover, so I don't want to go into it in detail. You would agree, surely, that what one might call the governance mechanisms of your job and the police come directly from the Constitution, which among other things says you must act impartially, without bias, and so on and so on. We agree with that?
Yes, I know my constitutional responsibilities and duties.
Thank you very much. And you'd also agree with Minister Mtetwa, who puts it even more beautifully than I can, that the constitutional framework of South Africa is such that there must be a clear separation between the operational side of things and the political. And he says at paragraph 16 of his quadruple C1, he uses a nice word, to shield. He says the above, after he discusses the constitutional framework, the above makes it clear that the constitutional scheme establishing SABC at its core imbues SABC with sufficient structural and operational autonomy so as to shield it from undue political influence through institutional and legal mechanisms. Surely you agree with the minister there?
I note his statement and I'm listening.
No? Do you agree with that is the institutional framework under which you as National Commissioner operate?
It is correct, sir.
Thank you. Now, and given that, you would agree that anybody who would break the law or breach the law and that constitutional and legal framework does not belong in SABC?
maybe if you can ask that question in a better level, does not belong in subs. What
No.
does that mean?
It's very simple. I'm saying if anybody would act in such a way as to break all the institutional framework that I've spoken to you about impartiality, lack of bias, being shielded from political and so on. Anybody who does that, firstly, would be breaking the law, the highest law in the land, the Constitution. But the most important question I'm asking you is whether a person who does that would not belong in SABC.
I would agree with the breaking the law.
And there's no place. I'm sorry.
Belonging in SABC is another thing. I want to understand what you mean by that. Breaking the law, of course, you're not allowed to break the law.
Yeah, but once you do, there's no place for you in SABC.
Depending on what you mean.
What he means is if you're not impartial, if you're actuated by bias, if you allow political factors to operate, which you shouldn't, then you shouldn't really be in that job. You should go somewhere else. I mean, that's really his point. Is that right?
That's correct, Chairperson.
Does that make it clear to you?
Chairperson, all I can say, my response to that is that indeed nobody is allowed to break the law, and if the law is meaning being impartial and all those type of things, of course it would require that organization to take the necessary steps to deal with it.
Okay, maybe I can jog your memory. You are aware that your predecessor, General Cele, was fired for breach of governance principles, rather than him doing kind of maybe stealing money or whatever. But it was more the fact that a breakdown in the governance principles had happened under his watch, and he was therefore removed.
The details I don't know. I just know that there are some general issues around breaches.
Yes, correct. So then that would indicate what I mean, if you can do that for leases and things like that, imagine if one were to breach those governance frameworks and with the result of 34 people dying. Surely the second one is more serious than any lease that you can think of, correct?
That would be your assessment, sir. I'm not giving that assessment. I'm listening to your assessment.
Okay. Now, the issue is that if you go to page 9 of Triple J 192, I'm going to read it as fast as I can, so that because it's quite long. And
What line?
Oh, yes, thank you, Chairperson. I'm going to start at line 6, Chairperson.
So I think yesterday AB will recall.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I'm going to read it fast. Please try and listen carefully, General, because the last few questions will be based on this, and it's very important. This is the General Mbombo speaking to Mr. Mukwena. So I think yesterday, and they didn't know that they were being recorded, or at least General Mbombo didn't. So I think yesterday, AB will recall, AB is Khotle, yes. You will recall when the discussion with the National Commissioner, that would be yourself, came. She also, from the discussion that she raised with you, she there is you, and some of these questions that she raised, you remember I raised them in the morning in our meeting, and she also felt that, it is difficult to separate management from giving these people a leeway. And if management gave these people this type of leeway, how do we separate them now from an allegation that can come and say, but they are supporting them? So, underline so, I want us to, when you said people must be arrested, I want us to be very clear that any information that we get should get to that we arrest people. That is our interest, because yourselves here as management, you will clear yourselves from this perception, says Mr. Mukwena. The General Bomba says, perception, Mr. Kwadi, yes. General Bomba says, you will clear yourself by ensuring that you diffuse, that you give out information that is related to this thing, and were able to actually act on that information because, underline because again, because I think even when we were trying to talk about it last night, she, that is you again, asked me a question that says, you know, well, this one I'm not sure because the Lonmin shareholders, I do not know much about them. Mr. Mokoena says yes. And then General Bombo says, but when I was speaking to Minister Mtetwa, he mentioned a name to me that is also calling him, that is pressurizing him. Unfortunately, it is a politically high individual. We've agreed that we can put a word like that. Mr. Mokoena says it is Cyril, SABC Commissioner. Cyril Ramaphosa, yes. Now remember, now when I was talking to the National Commissioner, yourself, last night, she says to me, look, General, who are the shareholders here? So I said, I do not know the shareholders, but I know that when I spoke to the minister, he mentioned Cyril. And then she, that's you, says, now I got it. You know why she says she got it? Remember, Cyril was in the appeal committee of Malema, remember? Mr. Mokoena, yes. And diffuse this thing so that it becomes as if Malema has taken charge of the mining industry, I suppose. Yeah, you understand that what I've just read out to you, General?
I'm reading with you.
You've been reading with me, yes. Yeah. Now, because we don't have time, I'm going to cut this very short. Firstly, you would agree that this discussion shows at face value, at least, that the National Commissioner of Police and the Provincial Commissioner were discussing political considerations to do with a policing operation, at face value. There might be long explanations, but from anybody reading this, you would agree that that's what it indicates.
The first thing is that this conversation takes place in my absence. I note what is being conversed on.
Yes. Well, let me put it this way, just to allay any fear. General Mbombo has been asked about this conversation. She has confirmed that the parts where for example, she says this and she refers to you, come from discussions that or things you either said to her or in her presence. So let's put that aside. I accept that this particular conversation took place in your absence. But I'm saying, would you agree that anybody, any human being reading this part that I've just read, would be left with the impression that the National Commissioner and the Provincial Commissioner were discussing political considerations to be taken into account in effecting a policing operation at face value?
I do not agree.
You do not agree? Okay. Now, assuming just by some chance that the Commission comes to the impression that that is what was being discussed here, you would agree that it's against the governance framework and the law as I've explained it to you?
All I'm saying is that I do not agree, so those presuppositions makes it difficult for me to actually give attention to them.
No, General, please.
I do not agree.
Okay, let me forget about what I read to you. If the National Commissioner of this country and the Provincial Commissioner were to take into account political considerations, to the extent of saying, we must not do this even if it's going to solve the policing situation, even if it's going to solve the unrest, even if it's going to solve the conflict because of political considerations. Would that be unlawful?
I think, Advocate Mpofu, you're not asking me why I do not agree. Because
no, I'm accepting that you don't agree.
I do have to say to you, you should ask me why I do not agree, because I want to understand what is political in what we've read.
Okay.
What are the political aspects that you want me to consider?
All right.
The problem is he actually cut it short. What it goes on to say is this. You see, the impression created he's putting to you is that the views which the Provincial Commissioner expressed to Mr. Marikana were shared by you, and that in fact it had arisen in a conversation that you'd had with her and with them, I think. That's what he's putting. Whether you agree with that is the matter you'll deal with in a moment. But then what the Provincial Commissioner goes on to say is this. Having said that, let's start with the words now that our discussion with the National Commission was surrounding this thing. It says, is this thing now happening such that again Malema come and diffuse the thing? He referred to the fact that Mr. Malema had gone to Impala and spoken, and after he'd spoken, the police were able to manage the situation, which they couldn't do before. This was the point she made, see? And now she says that our discussion with the National Commission was surrounding this thing that says, I think that should be if this thing now happening such that again Malema come and diffuse this thing. So she was in fact afraid that Mr. Malema, or so he will argue, afraid that Mr. Malema was going to come and diffuse this situation as well. So that it becomes as if Malema has taken charge of the mine. McQueen says, yeah. Provincial Commissioner continues, the mine, once again remember, Malema's views, the mine should be nationalised. And the Provincial Commissioner is nationalised and all that. And then he goes on to this. This is the passage he left out that really is what he's trying to convey to you. So it has got a serious political connotation that we need to take into account, but which we need to find a way of diffusing. Hence, I just told these guys that we need to act such that we kill this thing. Mokoena immediately, yes. Provincial Commissioner, when tomorrow we have to move in, if today we don't find cooperation with these people, we need to move in such that we kill it. And the point that I think Mr. Mpofu is I'm trying to make it clearer to you because he won't be satisfied to hear me say this, but I'm not sure he's making it clear to you as he should. The point he's trying to make is this, that the Provincial Commissioner, if he's correctly interpreted, was saying to Mr. McQueen, we've got to deal with this thing tomorrow. We've got to move in. We've got to kill it. Because if we don't, a terrible thing will happen. Mr. Malema will come. He will make a speech. He'll diffuse the situation. He'll get all the credit, and we can't have that. So that's why we've got to act now. And this she describes as a serious political connotation. I hope you now understand the point he's trying to convey. Am I right, Mr. Mpofu?
100%.
Now you can ask the questions you want to ask, and then your time is perhaps nearly up.
Thank you, Chairperson. So you do understand now the political connotation in this?
I do not understand political connotation because what I hear from this conversation is people who are interested in ending a strike.
No. It's the exact opposite. There are people who are interested in ensuring that the strike is not ended by a particular political figure. Not ended. In other words, he must not come and diffuse this situation. Why? Because he says mines must be nationalized. Why? Because one of the shareholders was in the disciplinary hearing. And in case you think there's any debate, she says, in her own words, as the chairperson has read it out to you, so it has got serious political connotation that we need to take into account. It can't be clearer than that. But which we need to find a way of diffusing. Hence, we must kill this thing and so on. And then later she says, when tomorrow we have to move in, if today we do not find cooperation, these people, we need to move in such that we kill it. Because, that word is connected, because we need to protect a situation where any Jack and Jill from a political area and then gets interrupted. So political comes out even twice in her own words. What do you mean you don't understand the political connection?
I don't, because what I hear and interpret, remember that's a conversation first that I'm not in, but what I hear is an interest to end the protest. That's what I hear.
Okay, that's fine. Then I'll ask you this last question.
Running out of time. Okay, last question.
Yes. I'll ask this last question then. Let's assume that we are all wrong about this. There's nothing political in what I've just read out to you. It's about ending the situation as you suggest. Now, what I'm asking you then is, if on the off chance that we are not wrong, that this discussion had political implications and it implicated you, would a situation where no less than the national commissioner of the country and the provincial commissioner are discussing a situation where they say, do not diffuse a potentially volatile situation only because of political considerations. Would that amount to unlawfulness, and do those people belong in SABC, as you understand it?
As I understand it, advocate, is people discussing the interest of ending a strike. That's how I understand it. And I also make a very clear distinction between political responsibility and political interference. And in our operation, we take those two premises very clearly. I've said so right at the beginning when I was asked of my role, and when I was asked of, you've also articulated it to say, what did the minister say?
Yes.
So what I've heard throughout this discussion is people who are talking, they could have used other words, but what I hear, and I'm honest and I'm interpreting the best way I can, is people who are seeking to end a protest.
Yes, for the purposes of this, and I'm asking really now for the last time, I accept that for the purpose of this. I promise you I won't accept it when we do the argument, but just for progress, let's say I accept that answer. All I'm saying to you now is, let us assume that we are going to be so wayward as to assume that this was a discussion about politics. If that is so, would you agree that it would indicate a situation where the participants, insofar as they are SABC members, do not belong to a police service of the democratic South Africa as defined in the Constitution, which should be shielded, according to the minister, from political considerations, and according to the Constitution?
My response to you would be, any person who works in SABC and is a leader like myself would be clearly understanding the what I call political responsibility and political interference. And we make a very clear distinction between those two things. It's very critical. The executive is politically responsible. They do not interfere with our operations.
Is that what you meant when you said, now I see, I get it?
You had your last question, but let me try to put your question.
Thank you very much.
Let me try to put your question in terms the witness will understand.
I'll be indebted.
Mrs. Menya?
Well, I was going to make that point. His time was up 5 minutes
Oh,
ago.
his time is up now. I'm aware. The problem is he hasn't put his point as clear as I think he wants to put it. Whether it's a good point or not, another matter.
Thanks.
What he's trying to say, I think, is this: that he's going to argue that the provincial commissioner said to the London people, we've got to act tomorrow, even if it's risky, doesn't matter, we've got to act tomorrow, because otherwise Malema's going to come and sort the thing out. That's a bad thing. That's a political factor we have to take into account. That's what he's going to argue. And he's going to go further, and he's going to say, based on the passage he read you, that idea was one with which you agreed. And all he's asking you is that he's asking you, for the purpose of answering your question, to assume certain things which I know you don't assume. What he's saying is, if the decision to move on the Thursday was prompted by a desire, even though it was risky, prompted by a desire to get in and sort the problem out before Mr. Malema came and got all the political credit for sorting it out, would that be a wrong approach?
Chairperson, my response to you would be, our being there for more than 9-10 days, if indeed the desire was just that, sincerely we wouldn't have been there for that time. And this is why, Chairperson, I would not agree to what is being proposed.
All right, well that's your answer. Mr. Mpofu, that's it then. Thank you for your cross-examination.
Thank you, Chairperson. And I note that you wanted to end the strike, but that will be a topic for another day. Thanks.
No, well, yeah. No. We won't go there now.
Thank you very much, Chairperson.
That's the end of the witnesses' evidence. Thank you very much for coming back and for answering our questions. You're excused from further attendance.
Thank you.
Well, Mr. Jackson, there's something I want to raise with you in chambers in a minute or two. So whatever you want to say, we can deal with then. Mr. Berger, do you want to lead the witness for the next 7 minutes, or shall we take the lunch adjournment now?
No, there's a witness still under cross-examination.
Sorry, I beg your pardon. I'd forgotten. Mr. Bam is leading the witness. The witness is actually being cross-examined by Mr. Mpofu, and it's Mr. Bam's witness, not yours. So, do you want the witness to come back now, Mr. Bam, for 7 minutes, or shall we take the tea adjournment now? The lunch adjournment now, and start again after lunch?
I would have thought the latter choice is the better
All right,
one.
the latter choice is made. We will adjourn until 1:45.